An Introduction to the Book of Daniel.
Hi guys, welcome to the JW Untold Truth channel. So Jehovah's Witnesses for the entire history have spoken about the statue of Daniel. And I remember perfectly when I came into the Jehovah's Witnesses, they were teaching this statue back in the day in the 1990s regarding this prophetic statue regarding the world powers, Jesus coming down and getting rid of all these world powers. But even nowadays, the Jehovah's Witnesses still hold some kind of secret enlightenment from Jehovah God regarding this topic. But let's have a quick look at the current understanding, and I've got this video from the website. Let's have a look what the current understanding is, and let's spot some of the inconsistencies in the teaching. Let's have a look at this video.
An Introduction to the Book of Daniel. Daniel opens his book by relating events that began in 618 BCE when he was still a young man. He completed his writing in approximately 536 BCE.
But let's stop there for a second, because no fundamentalist religion like the Jehovah's Witnesses would tell you that the consensus dates the book of Daniel to the 2nd century BCE, specifically between 167 and 164 BCE, rather than the 6th century BCE. But let's keep learning a bit more about this statue.
Chapters 2 and 4 describe how Jehovah gives Daniel the ability to interpret two of King Nebuchadnezzar's dreams. Each of these divinely sent dreams has prophetic significance. The first dream is of an immense image made of various metals. This image represents successive world powers that have had a major influence on God's people. The prophecy ends with the destruction of these powers, and with God's kingdom as the only government ruling over mankind.
Well, it is not a prophetic if it's written in the 2nd century BCE. Daniel already had the knowledge of what world powers rose and fell by this time.
Did you know? A large portion of the book of Daniel was written in the Aramaic language. Aramaic was commonly spoken in ancient times, having the same letters in its alphabet as did Hebrew.
Let's also note here that no fundamentalist religion will teach you that the Aramaic language used in Daniel was the new Aramaic language, not the old one. That's one of the indications that the book can be dated to the 2nd century, not the 6th century.
Chapters 7 and 8 describe the visions Daniel sees of a series of beasts that picture the rise and fall of Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. Also, Jehovah gives his Son an everlasting kingdom that will replace all human governments.
And notice that it only mentions 4 world powers, so we will have to discard all other world powers that existed because it doesn't fit the agenda. Other world powers that we have to ignore could be the Han Dynasty that ruled between 206 BCE to 220 BCE, the Maurya Empire that ruled between 322 and 185 BCE. We also got the Indian Empire, but we have to ignore all these other empires, obviously. And also remember that the reason that these world powers were identified was because the Israel were afflicted by these world powers, and that is why we have to disregard other world powers, way more powerful because they had nothing to do with Israel. But one of the world powers mentioned was Persia. If we dig a little bit, we will come up with an issue with this whole thing about world powers, because according to history, Israel was generally not afflicted or oppressed by the Persian Empire in the same way that were Babylon, Rome, and Greece. Instead, Persia acted as Israel's liberator and protector, allowing the Jewish people to return to the homeland and rebuild Jerusalem.
Next, we read that while Daniel is praying, an angel appears to him and reveals details concerning the Messiah. Chapters 10 to 12 discuss the event when an angel again visits Daniel encourages him, and gives him an additional vision of the future.
Funny, this is so funny because Daniel had to have a second angel appear to him to clarify what the first angel told him. Anyways, that's the current teaching of the Jehovah's Witnesses regarding this Daniel statue. But this is where it gets really juicy. I have with me some old literature of the Jehovah's Witnesses. I have the book Pay Attention to Daniel's Prophecy, printed in 1999. This is a relic now. Interesting enough, on the second page here, it says this is the first printing in English. They printed 5 million copies. And just a side note, I've got the booklet here, or the catalog of prices of all the books of the Jehovah's Witnesses back in 1987. Remember, this is 1999. This is 12 years later. 10 years before, most of the books or hardcover books were sold by around $2, $1.50, $2, $2.50, and even more. Let's have a look. Let's think 12 years later, this will be approximately $3, $4 each book. And remember, we had to pay for each book back in the day, in the 90s. So if the Jehovah's Witnesses printed 5 million copies with the first edition only in English, that would have made the Watchtower 50 million with the first 5 million copies of this bad boy. $15 million. Ouch. And I'm sure this would have cost them next to nothing for the Watchtower to make, because everything was money donated, all the labor was free, and everything was donated to the Watchtower to do all these booklets that we had to pay up front. So yeah, $50 million for the first 5 million printing editions. Wow. Also, I have with me another amazing brochure from the Jehovah's Witnesses. Here it is. And it says, "Will humans ruin this earth?" Also, guess what it is for? It's to promote the Daniel's statue, and what else is there? The booklet. Oh my god. Of course. But this is not why I made this video. The main purpose of this video is to remind the public and also the Jehovah's Witnesses, because we know that the Jehovah's Witnesses suffer from chronic amnesia when it has to do with the past history. The Watchtower has no clue and just keep speculating. And let's just take a look at what the history of the guesses are regarding what this statue is all about. Let's have a look what the guesses of the Watchtower is. So let's have a look what the Watchtower guessed regarding this iron and clay represents in the statue of Daniel. Let's start with the book Plan of the Ages in 1886, page 234. It says that the church and the state was the iron and clay. In 1900s, the Old Theology Quarterly number 48 says that the iron and the clay represents the civil and government and ecclesiastical government, papacy. In the Watchtower 1958, February 15th of February, page 102, it says that the iron and clay represents Satan's disunified world. The Watchtower in 1959, May 15, page 314, it says that the iron and clay represents the capitalists and the socialist movement. In the Watchtower 1969, May the 15, it says that the iron and the clay represents all the coexisting powers and the governments on earth today. In 1977, the book Our Incoming World Government, God's Kingdom, it says that the iron and clay represents the Conservative Party and the Radical Party. In 1977, the book God's Kingdom, 1,000 Years, the appointing time, I guess, it says that the iron and clay represents the authoritarian government and the common people. The Watchtower 1981, May 15, it says that the iron and clay represents the socialist and communist rulers now. The Watchtower 1984, January the 1st, says that the iron and clay represents the Anglo-American world power with radical popular movements. The Watchtower 1985, July the 1st, it says that the iron and clay represents the socialist and democratic rulerships now. Interesting enough, the same Watchtower, the 1985, July the 1st, it says that the iron and clay represents the harsh dictatorship and more pliable democratic forms of governments. Oh, I actually remember this Watchtower. I was already a Jehovah's Witness back in this day. In 1997, said November the 1st, it says that the iron and clay represents the political fragmentation. I remember that they were saying back then in the day. The Watchtower 2012, June 15, it says that the iron and clay represents the elements within the realm of the iron, like Anglo-American world power. Watchtower 2012, September 15, says that the iron and clay represents the weakened state of the Anglo-American world power. And ladies and gentlemen, what will they come up with next? So yes, that is a quick history of what the Watchtower have been teaching regarding the iron and clay representation of this statue. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and let's have a look what else we can find for the next video.